Yo, what is up guys? Today we're going to be comparing the Samsung Galaxy A52 to the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. So this is Samsung's newest mid-ranger, and this is still Samsung's entry-level flagship, the S20 FE here. So you might not want to spend that extra money on the FE, or you might be completely satisfied with the A52. So this is $350 right now. This is going for $500 to $600 depending on whether you want it refurbished or brand new, and I'll have those links down below for you guys to check out. So let's go ahead and get started with the hardware on both of these phones. So it's pretty interesting. Hardware is pretty similar. So the A52 is an all plastic phone, and the S20 is a plastic and metal phone. So it's got a plastic back, but it's got metal frames on here. This looks like metal, but it's actually just, plastic. So as far as design wise, they both are very nice looking phones. Honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards, this might be crazy, but I'm leaning towards the A52's design wise as far as looks. Now the S20 does feel much more premium in the hand because you are feeling that metal at least. But yes, I do really like, I'm a big fan of how they did the A52 this year. But as far as build quality, they both feel really solid in the hand, and they both honestly feel about the same weight and honestly pretty much the same thickness, right? We do have a power button on the right hand side, volume rockers, pretty much the same button layout here, but the A52 still retains the 3.5mm headphone jack, so if that is important to you, that is one thing that you really should note. They both have stereo speakers, which we will talk about a little bit more. Then on the left hand side, we have nothing. Now, once we check out the displays on these phones, this is where you'll start to see a difference here. So on the S20, we have a Super AMOLED 120Hz HDR10 Plus display at 6.5 inches, 1080p, 407 for the PPI. On the A52, it's a Super AMOLED display, 90Hz, 1080p at 6.5 inches, 407 for the PPI. So same exact size when it comes to the display size, and we also have the punch hole in the middle and pretty much the same bezels as well. But the difference is when it comes to 90 Hz versus 120 Hz, you will notice that immediately the 120 Hz on the FE does feel extremely smooth when you're scrolling and swiping. So that is one thing that you're going to notice. But as far as image quality, it's really hard to tell the difference here, honestly, because they both pretty much look the same. Honestly, brightness is pretty much the same on these displays as far as I can tell. So yeah, I really can't even tell the difference with display quality. But again, if you're somebody that holds a high refresh rate and high regard, and you want that super, silky smooth experience, you'll get that on both of these phones, but it's more apparent on the S20 as far as scrolling. When you go on Instagram and stuff like that, it'll just feel way smoother on the S20 here. So that is one thing that you'll notice right off the bat. Alright, so we have Android 11 on here with One UI, of course, but here's another big difference that you should pay attention to, and it really depends on if you're a gamer or not, because we'll see with the speed tests here we're going to do, you're not going to see a massive difference. So you have the Snapdragon 865 on the S20 FE, Adreno 650, micro SD support, 128 gigs of storage, and 6 gigs of RAM. On the A52, we have the Snapdragon 720G, Adreno 618, micro SD support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and also 6 gigs of RAM. So basically, you have a flagship chipset on the S20 FE, which means it's going to be much better for gaming performance and doing very harder, multitasking, stuff like that. You won't get that, that lag experience if you have a ton of stuff open. But both of these phones, of course, are relatively smooth. It's not to say the A52 is going to be laggy or anything. But let's go ahead and open some applications so you can just get a feel for it. S20, ready to go. Ready to go, boom. As you can see, not a huge difference here. Instagram, S20, let's try YouTube. Oh, that's pretty much a tie there. And then let's go ahead and try Google Earth. S20. So you can see the S20 is overall going to be slightly snappier when you're launching applications and stuff like that. But as you can see, for the price, the A52 keeps up very well. Now, if we launch a heavier game, let's see what we get here. And we're already in, boom, A52. So your gaming performance is going to be really awesome on both of these phones, but if you are a gamer, you're definitely going with the S20 FE, because if you play games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG, they're going to perform way better on the S20 FE for sure. But as you can see, the A20 is great for casual gaming. You can play all of those games, you just won't be able to play them maxed out. And I also noticed less frame rate drops on the S20 FE as well. So if you're a gamer, if you're not a gamer, and then the A52 is going to be fine for you. Now you guys can see the Geekbench scores. You can see much higher scores on the S20 FE in the single and multi-core score, even though the A52 was very close. But again, you'll see that big difference in performance when you're trying to game. If you're not a gamer, it doesn't really it's not gonna matter too much. So let's go ahead and talk about speaker quality on both of these phones. All right, they both have stereo speakers, so let's see if we can spot a difference in quality. Starting with the A52. Yeah, these two speakers actually sound 100% identical. I can't tell the difference between them. So they both sound really great. I can't see, hear any kind of real difference in terms of bass or mids and highs. They're both very loud. They both sound crisp. So I really like the speakers on both. So there's no real difference here. All right, so a difference I noticed immediately was the fingerprint scanner setup. So the A52's fingerprint scanner is smooth, but you'll notice right off the bat that the S20's fingerprint scanner feels way more responsive. Like it feels smoother and it feels faster. The A52's, it feels like there's a slight, just slowness compared to the S20. Now you have face unlock for both of these phones, which is really nice, so they both work great. So what's really cool about the A52 is they added an IP rating, which is pretty cool. So you have IP67, but the S20 FE is IP68. So that is really nice that they both have that, but you do have a better IP rating on the S20. You also have NFC on both, and you also have more bells and whistles on the S20 FE. And what I mean by that is you have the Samsung desktop experience on here. So if you want to plug your phone up to the TV or to your PC monitor and kind of have that desktop experience, that is on there as well. Secure folders is on both, but you also have reverse wireless charging on the S20 FE. So if I wanted to charge a pair of wireless headphones or another phone on this phone, I would just turn it on and then just place it on the back like that, and I'd be able to use this as a wireless charging pad, which is really nice. So you do have a little bit more, flagship quality bells and whistles on the S20 FE for sure. Let's talk about image quality on both of these phones. And just to give you a short answer, I do prefer the cameras on the Galaxy S20 FE. They are, noticeably a little bit better than the A52s for sure. So if you hold pictures in high regard, like for somebody like me, I don't take a ton of pictures, so the A52's camera quality is pretty sufficient for me. Like I would be perfectly happy because I'm not, somebody that takes a lot of photos. If you take a lot of photos, you definitely are leaning more towards the S20 FE. So just to go over the specs, starting with the S20, you have a 12 megapixel standard, an 8 megapixel telephoto, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. You have 4K video as well, and a 32 megapixel selfie that also shoots 4K. And as you can see from the photos, you're getting some really nice looking photos when it comes to detail, when it comes to dynamic range. The ultra wide is really awesome. I just overall was really pleased with the S20's camera quality. It takes really good photos. So like I said, if you're leaning more towards photos, or photos are something that's really important to you, I prefer all of the cameras compared to the A52 on here. The selfie camera, all of them, it just came out a better shot to me, especially lower light shots are also a little bit better on the S20, and I preferred the video as well. But that's not to say that the A52's camera is bad by any means. It's a very good camera for the price that you're paying, actually. So you do have a 64 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 5 megapixel macro and depth sensor. So you're missing that macro sensor on the S20 FE, which is something that I really like, but you do have that on the A52. As you can see from the photos with the A52, you're getting excellent photos. So if these photos look good to you, then you really don't need to spend that type of money. If you're a casual shooter and you're just point and click and that's all you're doing, these photos are good dynamic range, pretty good image processing on here. Front facing camera is good, colors look really nice and vibrant, depth of field is there, so you'll be really happy with the cameras. But like I said, if that is extremely important to you, I do prefer the S20 cameras there. Alright, let's talk about battery life. So on the S20 FE, you have a 4,500 milliamp battery, 25 watt fast charging, 15 watt wireless charging, and then you have 4.5 reverse wireless charging. On the A52, you have a 4,500 milliamp battery as well with 25 watt fast charging. So you don't have any type of wireless charging on the A52, of course, and there's no reverse wireless charging. So that is something to take consideration if you use wireless charging a lot. And also, when it comes to battery life, honestly, these phones perform pretty much the same. You still get around, you get all day battery life with both of these phones. If you do get the 5G variants of these phones, then I don't know how that would be all day because I've never had 5G. But again, all day battery life on 4G for sure. So they pretty much perform the same when it comes to that. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.